As far as the radio system, we've been up and deployed on digital for about a month. So far, as far as coverage maps, it's surpassing the expectations tremendously. We've still got that 70% coverage for portables that we're always looking around 100%, and probably 95% coverage with mobiles. We still like, everybody thinks when we cut over to digital we're done, but we're not. We still like about 5% on that project. The major stuff that we like is a microwave chute between base mountain and short mountain. That's a redundancy. Still working on that. And the base stations there's a way to do that fast and not do it correctly, and there's a way to do it slow and do it correctly. So we're still leaning toward slow to make sure they're right. They're able to get into the majority of the sites for each station where we put them. So still moving forward with doing that the initial way we expect that. On a sunshiny day, the other way works great, but I think we're going to put some money into putting those base stations out there. We want it where it's working at the sites they on, or all three are up and working. We're in the process of the first over-the-air reprogramming of radios. That's always going to happen. You're never going to get it exactly right straight out of the gate. The way that program works, it reads radios in as they're turned on and in the field. We've got 196 that are ready in the system out of 500 that are out there. Once those all read in, we'll shoot out the new programs, and that's the way that'll continue as far as the reprograms. You may hear a little bit about this. There's an area up in Mount Carmel where the radios won't run. That reprogram will take care of that. It's just a threshold that needed to be adjusted. I brought this up last time because I knew this was going to be an issue, and it's already presented itself. We've had some devices that have got damaged or had components like antenna issues, stuff like that. We can sustain some of that maintenance within my department, but I just wanted to get the approval if that's what we wanted to do. As long as there's not a significant repair, I mean, if it's just an antenna or just a repair on the antennas got knocked off, damaged, whatever. But I know I asked about this in the last meeting. They said we'd address it when it came up, but we've already got a few issues. These devices are deployed on where they get the infantry limbs and everything else. So it's not an installation issue. It's just an environmental issue. We've had a few battery issues as well on devices getting drawn.
You have an estimated cost?
I don't know what the estimated cost would be. I've got a line in my budget we can pull out of and not have to move any of the money into that line unless we have a significant repair. I just want to make sure everybody's okay with that. And I'll get with Eric, and if we do need to move that money into a different line, just get a few parts in, I'll be back in touch with you on that. I just want to bring this up so everybody knows where we're at. The game has completely changed as far as the state network, and I brought that up last time. The governor's pushed out $180 million, and the amount of money going toward law enforcement in the Midwest right now from the governor is continuing to climb every time grants and stuff come out as far as the state system. So just know that availability is out there, and at some point we may end up with a pursuable path there. But even if we had to go right now, it'd be years before we get it built out. But I just wanted you to know that was out there, and the governor's definitely pushing money toward that avenue.
Go back to the radios here. Got the figure $522,775. Is that still close estimate of what you would need?
I've went back to the drawing board on that a little bit, and I've split that out a little differently than what we had before. What we did, we took the traffic from our EMS repeater and the traffic from our law enforcement repeater. When we went to digital, we only needed one. So we have that one repeater right now trying the law enforcement and EMS, which is the top one. In order to bring anyone else on this system, whether it be fire, Board of Education, whatever, the second repeater would need to be brought online. The reason I mentioned Board of Education, they're looking at this as well. And at some point, we're going to bring 3 online. in a digital capacity, and trumping in order to add the next one online and add the Wi-Fi capacity into the radios, and to get licensed that we could do that, do the 2 repeaters on all sites we have now, and if we built 2 additional sites, that figure comes to $182,000. That the majority of that is radio licenses that are available right now. Over 100,000 of that's radio license that's available right now that may not be available in a year. Once that license is sold, we have completely shut the door on expanding the system because there's not any additional license available at that point. I would recommend at a minimum to try to secure those licenses at this point, because if we don't and they get away, that's the only path to expand this in the future. As far as radios for county fire responders, I've worked with Danny and Chief Vaughn on this. So we talked about 2 bases for each fire department, and we can adjust this around. Some fire departments' needs are different than others. 10 truck radios and 15 portables. And like I say, we could adjust that within the department if a department has less trucks or whatever. That figure comes to $136,000, or $436,000, sorry. $436 for the radios, just for the county responders. If we do that, at that point, the cities would have to come online with this system because there would be no analog left. So that would leave, we bought the city and the county responders radios with the grant money we had previously. That would leave about $170,000 if it was the same thing for those departments as far as cities. Like I say, some departments may not need this specific number of radios, but that's just the best way to put it out there as an initial estimate.
What you say the cost was for the licensure?
$182,000 is what I've got for, if we did the licensing, I'm talking about the hardware updates to bring the second repeater online and the Wi-Fi programming.
So you would recommend doing that before we proceed with the radios?
I would recommend doing that at a minimum. Another thing that does when you bring that online, even if we don't buy additional radios, like the sheriff's office has asked for the SWAT team to have a wide channel that can be, because sometimes they have events that are miles, the same event, but they're 2 or 3 locations, a couple miles apart. That would give you the ability to bring that online and event digital online, and those type channels as well. So you wouldn't just be spending that money just for the license, but that would be your primary goal, would be to secure those because they're available at the moment. Of those licenses that are available, I've left 5 outside of this figure for Board of Education that I know is available. This would be a total of 7 licenses, and that would leave 5 still available in the pool.
Anything else?
I'm not going to anything else.
Committee's heard Mr. Miller's quarterly report. Do the committee wish to proceed with, take any action on the licensure?
Mr. Chairman, can I come on down here and recognize Chief Vaughn for taking the report? Is this what he's here to recognize Chris, and then we'll go back up and get the sheriff's department? You go there.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm not jumping around too much. Good afternoon.
Good morning. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, so with this, I just want to know where we're at with it, because it was, like he said, we were given, there was a lot of $500,000. I know he needs at least minimum for to get the licensing, and all the other junk. I don't really know how radios work too much, other than you just talk on them, they're supposed to work. So I just want to know we're going to move forward, because I think even if we didn't go to the digital right now, the radios that I have were given out. How long ago was that when Gary gave us that?
Oh, I'm sure.
So I'm still around the 2005 radios and everything. So even if we don't go to the digital fully, just like when the sheriff's office got the new radios, they were still able to use the VHF normal. I think that just having new equipment with new antennas, new radios would at least help a little bit. Now, we're granted we're not the biggest priority, we're still a priority because EMS is always on the radio, law enforcement is always on the radio. And there could be days that we don't have to talk on the radio, but when we do need to, it would be nice if it worked very adequately, and maybe I wasn't using stuff that is from early 2000s. But it's really all I have about it. So we all know radios are important. I don't have to get up here and say that it's going to save lives and this and that. We all know it's necessary to have. So, any questions for me? Anybody? But like I said, even if we didn't go to the digital fully yet, just to have the new equipment installed in trucks would be a big help.
I'd like to recommend that we go ahead and pursue the radios and cost direct minimum percentage, Mr. Chairman.
Make that one motion.
Yes,
To refer to the budget committee.
yes.
Jamie, what's your total number? Just for record.
36. If you did it and then the license at 618, or in the license, that's what we're talking about.
436 for radio and add the license 618.
Yeah.
Or you just want to do radio or license?
Where would we get that additional funding at? We currently have, what was it, $550,000 left?
The scenario we've got to be cautious of is if we buy those radios without the license, we'll have no opportunity to update those to where they can be digital in the future.
So you're saying either doing them both at the same time or doing the license at the minimum?
I'm just saying, if you buy radios, which I fully support what Chris is saying, I don't know what's being used in the field, there's some of it that's ancient. But, if you buy the devices and you don't buy the licensing, and in 3 years you come to me and say, hey, we want to make these radios digital, if those are sold, they're only can be used in that long. But like I say, I fully support what Chris is saying, the devices in the field are very aged, a lot of them.
Licensure and radios information, or just the radios?
We need to go.
What's your motion?
Put it on Danny.
And I'm gonna need those numbers again, I'm sorry. And the licensing was 182? Okay.
I'd like to amend that to include the license and that comes with it, because radios will not do us any good if we cannot communicate back and forth.
All right, we have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Alice to refer on to the budget committee to allocate $618,000 for EMA to purchase radios and include the licensure for those radios. Do I have a second? Motion dies for lack of second.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and send on the $182,000 for the licensure to secure that to the budget committee.
Commissioner Gibson made a motion to recommend to the budget committee to pursue purchasing the licensure for $182,000. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Second by Commissioner Turner. Any discussion?
And that would pertain to who will hear that, Jamie?
The 182,000 would cover the licensing for the sites we have now to bring a second repeater online. It would also cover if we build 2 additional sites in the future, it would cover the license that we would need for those digital. It would do any hardware updates that were needed at the mountain, or adjustments or tuning or that sort of stuff. And it would add Wi-Fi into the radios as well, which is needed for the programming aspect of it. So that's what's included for the 182,000.
And that channel, that's what was secured from, what was like left over from the Coast Guard, or?
But they're available through Motorola, and they're intercoastal water.
Intercoastal.
Yeah.
So, but that's one of those deals, if we don't secure that now and somebody else does, we're out of luck.
Correct, and I know there's high demand in the area. Also, if this were to pass, we will do that as economically as possible. That's the max amount of first figures that they come in with.
Mr. Chair, So which line would we be pulling this money from?
The ARPA, that's where your written request come from, correct, Mr. Miller?
I don't know what's left in each of those, but it's an ARPA request pending.
This is just to refer to the budget committee for further discussion.
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious, when it comes to the budget committee, if there was, I know we don't really fund things here, but if Mr. Gibson gives guidance on where we might take the fund, I mean, ARPA will certainly work. ARPA is also getting rid of low.
Right.
Yeah, so.
I mean, I think for the long term of the radio, even if that does come out of ARPA, it's needed to secure that frequency.
In addition to that, for the 522,000 that we did not include, well, no, pardon me, the 436,000 to complete that build out that we left out of this resolution for now. If we wanted to add that back to that, if I understand correctly, you're talking about that's going to go for repeaters and build out for towers so that we can expand it in the future. That 436,000 cover that?
No, that's just,
Okay, I missed that.
yeah, the 436,000 is for base station, truck radios, and portables in the field
For
fire, for
Okay.
county fire service.
Okay, I'm tracking now, sorry. I
And
was-
that's the 8 county fire departments and the emergency response team.
Okay.
So then, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
Okay. For the, in this spreadsheet, Commissioner Commissioner Palmer sent out, we're showing right here for 522,755 EMA radios for fire departments. So you're saying that's going to be 436?
That was both these figures.
Both
before
figures
that-
together.
Before that originally started. That was
Okay.
a rough estimate that was thrown in.
So the 522 was
That
actually
was a rough
the
estimate that was
618.
probably thrown in 18 months ago or something.
So your new number is 618.
Yeah.
So 618, so right now, we've been just the spreadsheet that we're looking at, essentially is just putting a figure of 522, 775, that would be changed to 618, so now we're talking, rough math,
94,000.
Mr. Gibson, when this comes before the budget committee, I'd like to just study this out a little bit more. I don't want to completely say no to the 436,000 for the fire departments, so when it comes to the budget committee, would you be opposed if we amended it there?
No, I'm not opposed to that at all.
I just,
I just think, I feel like that looking at the two figures of priority to meet a long term, and I get that your department needs those radios, but for the long term of the radio system, I think it'd be more important to secure those channels.
I agree. I'd like to study on it.
Absolutely.
Maybe amend it later.
Any further discussion?
I had another question for Jamie. That was for, you said the county fire department. Does that include the city, like Mount Carmel, Churchill, Rogersville?
That figure does not. That would be 170,000 additional that we would either have to decide if they're responsible for their own radios or I don't want to do that.
Any further discussion on the motion that Commissioner Gibson made?
There would have to be an action made there because what they're using now would not. do
Right.
that.
I was gonna say, because it would knock them out of having a radio.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Ron. I just want to make sure that we
Any further discussion on the motion that Commissioner Gibson made to refer the $182,000
I
on to?
have a question, Mr. Chairman. Were you going to put in your motion to refer that for ARPA funding, Mr. Gibson, or was that just
Yes, ARPA funding.
out of ARPA funding? Okay,
Can we just include that in the motion?
okay, got it.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we're going to vote on the motion to refer the $182,000 to be funded out of ARPA funding for Young Miller to pursue licensure for the radios. Ms. Davis, would you do a roll call vote?
Tom Kern,
Yes.
Danny Elvis,
Yes.
John Gibson,
Yes.
Chad Britton,
Yes.
Jason Roach,
Yes.
Ronnie Palmer.
Yes.
Motion